welcome back. It's another exhilarating episode of Whining About Pest Control. I am Shelby Hartzer of 360 Pest Consulting. And before we go any farther, remember to hit that little subscribe button down there so you don't miss out on any of this fun whining, because today we are going to whine about the social wasps. And really, this time of year in the fall is key time to think about the stinging pests because their colonies are getting pretty large. And in honor of our social wasps, I'm drinking a very nice red blend because we're blending together a few species of wasps for this episode. So cheers to stinging insects and red blends. Not a bad red blend. All right, wasps. Wasps are actually a fairly small family of insects. There's only about 300 species in the US. Now, the most common ones that we're concerned about from a pest control standpoint are the hornets and the yellow jackets. There's always some confusion with these common names. Often people are going to call any yellow stinging thing a bee or a hornet or a yellow jacket. They don't know what it is. That's okay. You folks know that I'm a huge proponent of correctly identifying the pest you are dealing with. But for this episode, in this case, we're just going to divide these into two broad categories: ground dwelling and aerial nesting. Personally, I think the ground dwelling yellow jackets are the most difficult because you often don't know there's a colony below ground until you step on it or run it over with a lawnmower. And at that point, they're all riled up. You have to leave, come back later to try and find the entrance and treat those nests. Now, the aerial wasps are still challenging, don't get me wrong, but I think a bit easier to pinpoint. You have the paper wasps that build those little obvious umbrella-shaped nests under the eaves and in sheltered overhangs. And then there's the hornets that build those enclosed above-ground paper nests. Maybe it's in a tree hollow, wall voids, attics, and sometimes right there on the side of the building if it's sheltered enough for them. So you're going to see that big paper nest. And sometimes the nest isn't always immediately visible. Maybe it's in that wall void, but it's typically easy to see the wasp coming and going from that location. You can see that entry point. It's a little bit easier with those aerial nesting ones than the ground nesting ones. As I mentioned, autumn is key time for these wasps. They have had all summer to build up their numbers, so these colonies are getting to be quite large. This is also the time of year when those colonies start producing new queens. And these new queens are going to overwinter and restart the process next year. So getting these colonies now is key to having less wasps next year. And of course, it's also going to have less stinging for this year. Now, once you have identified the location of the nest, now we get to whine about the treatment. Do whatever you can to try and treat these things as early in the morning as possible or as late in the afternoon as possible. I know you're running a route and it's all scheduled out for you and maybe you're there at noon, but that's when these little a-holes are going to be the most active and you're going to get stung. Ideally, you really want to treat at night, but customers don't want us there at 10 p.m. at night. So the point is we want to try and get all those wasps in the nest, not out foraging. So early in the morning or late in the afternoon are key times to have everything back in that colony. Because there's some really good wasp sprays available. You know, the ones in the can with a little straw that shoot out the liquid. In order to minimize getting stung, you want to stand as far back from that nest as possible, but you still want to be close enough to get that spray into that nest opening. And keep spraying. Don't just give it a little shot and then walk away. We want to make sure that we get the entire colony. And since they're so big at this time of year, we want to make sure we get enough product in there to eliminate everything. That way, we don't get callbacks. The liquids work pretty fast, so you can often take out that entire nest with one treatment, assuming we're doing it at the right time, assuming we've got enough product. Dust may also be used in some cases, particularly in wall voids, areas that you may not know exactly where that nest is, but you've got the opening, so the dust can get in there and spread out a little bit better. Whatever you're using to treat, make sure to read and follow the label of the product you are using. Read the label, follow the label. Now, as usual, there's so much more I can whine about. I haven't even touched on the non-social wasps like cicada killers and mud daubers and all those fun ones. So stay tuned for future episodes on those. In the meantime, you can always whine to me about your stinging pest issues. Reach out anytime. We've got some helpful resources listed down below, as well as links to our social media where we have so much more great stuff, so check that out. Don't forget to subscribe and don't miss out on any of the future whining. And until next time, don't get stung out there, and cheers.